Hi, I'm Johannes from Glassbox, and today I'm going to show you how to set up joystick controls for your DragonFly camera. We will do the joystick bindings in 2 steps. You can see that I have DragonFly open in Unreal Engine here, and that is because as the first step, we will tell DragonFly how we want to use the DragonFly camera through our joysticks. And then as a second step on our hardware controller, we will tell DragonFly which joysticks to use for our camera movements. So first, we will navigate to the DragonFly menu on the Unreal menu bar and open the joystick bindings window. You can see that this is currently empty. Usually when you open up DragonFly for the first time, you will already see 3 entries here and you can absolutely use those. I have just cleared this out to show you what it looks like to set this up from scratch. So in the case that we want to set up a 3-dimensional camera control, we will need to add 3 new axis bindings here. So that's what I'm doing. The first one for the forward-backward motion, the second one for the left-right motion, and the third for the up-down motion. You can see that all of them are currently set to forward, and that's just how they come by default, but we can go in here and modify how they're set up. So the first one, forward, that's totally fine. Let's go to the second one and go to the axis details and set this to right movement. Right movement, since this is an axis, also includes left movement, but it's called right to signify that that's the positive direction of this binding. And then the third, let's set it to up movement, which of course also includes down. I want to talk about this space toggle down here real quickly. These are settings that you don't have to touch, but it's useful to understand what they do so you can use them if you want to. The first one is called up aligned, and as I toggle it, you can see that it's actually specified in our bindings list up here. Up aligned means thus that no matter where your camera is facing, your forward, backwards, left, right movement will always happen on a fixed horizontal plane. So let's give an example. If we have our camera angled downwards a little bit and we push our forward axis, that movement is still 100% horizontal. There's no downwards component of it, even though we are facing a little bit downwards. On the contrary, if this is off, then forward will mean our camera moves precisely in the direction that our camera faces. Whether to use one or the other is totally a matter of preference. Some people like their camera controls up aligned, some people like them totally local. That's up to you. For me today, I will keep them off. The second one is global, and you will almost never use this if you're setting up controls for yourself as the camera operator. Global alignment means that all your camera movements introduced by your joystick controls are relative to the scene and independent from your camera facing direction. So no matter how you orient your camera in the scene, forward movement will always be relative to the axis of your scene. And this can be useful, for example, if you're setting up controls for a second person who moves your camera similarly to how you would move your camera on a crane, for example, relative to something that is physical in the world, then global axis alignment can be useful. But again, for setting up bindings as the camera operator, you will almost never use this, but it's useful to know what it does. You can also name your binding, but unless you're working with a lot of bindings, there's no real reason to doing this. So we'll skip this for now. That's our bindings set up. Note that as of now, they're not yet connected to your controller, and we'll do that in the next step. You can see that they're not connected yet if you look at the bindings column where there's no controller button or stick ID mentioned yet. We'll change that now. In terms of input devices, we can use the DragonFly companion app that has on-screen controls, but we can also use a hardware controller that can be attached to an iPad or even any generic USB controller plugged into the PC. So to set up on-screen controls, we connect our companion app to our plugins server. And then we go to the settings panel, go to the controls tab and drag two joysticks onto our screen. And then to assign the access to our existing bindings, we just select each binding one by one, click bind, and then on the iPad, drag the, in this case, forward axis forward. You can see how that has assigned an axis now. Go to the right binding, click on bind, drag our joystick to the right. So we have that assigned as well now. And then go to our third axis, click on bind, and drag our second joystick upwards to assign upward motion. And that's it. You can see that all our axes are assigned now. We can close this window and we can start using our axis bindings to move our camera around in our scene. Thank you so much for watching. As always, you can find more information on our website at glassboxtech.com.